The world of Formula One has been blindsided by a revelation so unexpected, so utterly surreal, that it has left fans, analysts, and even rival drivers in a state of sheer disbelief. The name Lewis Hamilton has long been synonymous with perfection, on and off the track. A 7-time world champion, an icon of discipline, a beacon of clean living, a relentless advocate for health, sustainability, and peak athleticism. His lifestyle is the very blueprint of modern sporting excellence, a finely tuned balance of physical precision, unwavering mental strength, and a level of dedication that has redefined what it means to be a professional athlete. And yet, against all logic, against all expectations, against everything the world thought it knew about him, Hamilton has been caught engaging in a habit so antithetical to his brand that it has sent shockwaves through the sporting world. The man who has meticulously sculpted his body into a temple of endurance, who preaches plant-based diets, who pushes the boundaries of what the human body can achieve at high speeds, has been photographed smoking, a cigarette no less, an act so at odds with his meticulously curated public image that it has set the internet on fire. Fans are in turmoil. Social media is in flames. Conspiracies are flying in every direction. Was this a lapse in judgment? A one-time indulgence? A deeper sign of rebellion? Or is there something more significant lurking beneath the surface? The setting of this scandalous revelation could not be more fitting for a tale of high drama and shocking betrayals. Monte Carlo, the crown jewel of the Mediterranean, where the wealthy and powerful lose themselves in excess and indulgence, where fortunes are won and lost over a single roll of the dice, where secrets are whispered in the corridors of luxury. On a night like any other, the Monte Carlo casino was alive with the usual symphony of high-stakes gambling, the pop of champagne bottles, the murmurs of billionaires discussing their next acquisitions. But on this particular evening, amid the gilded halls and the exclusive terraces, something far more newsworthy was unfolding. Hamilton, dressed in an immaculately tailored black ensemble that exuded sophistication and mystique, was not there for the roulette wheels or the baccarat tables. He was not seen chatting with executives, not exchanging pleasantries with A-list celebrities or European aristocrats. Instead, he had drifted away from the main spectacle, stepping onto one of the casino's private terraces, an area so exclusive that even the wealthiest elite rarely gain access. A place where discretion is paramount, where deals are struck in silence, where the world's most influential figures momentarily shed their public facades. And yet, on this particular night, the veil of secrecy was lifted just enough to allow a shocking truth to be revealed. Hamilton, standing against the backdrop of a breathtaking Monte Carlo skyline, his silhouette illuminated by the golden glow of city lights reflecting off the Mediterranean, was seen with a cigarette in hand. A sight so utterly alien, so wildly out of place, that those who witnessed it could barely believe what they were seeing. The legendary driver, the poster child for fitness and peak human performance, exhaling smoke into the crisp night air, as if he had momentarily stepped into a completely different version of himself. The reaction was instant. Within hours, the images began to circulate. Within minutes, they had become the center of a global firestorm. Twitter erupted. Instagram flooded with speculation. Facebook turned into a battleground of divided opinions. The internet had seen Hamilton break records, conquer circuits, and make history in a scarlet Ferrari. But never had it seen him like this. Some fans were quick to defend him. He's human, they argued. A single cigarette doesn't erase his legacy. Others were less forgiving, branding it a betrayal of everything he had stood for. Then there were those who sought deeper meaning in the act, dissecting every frame of the now viral photographs, zooming in on his facial expressions, analyzing the way he held the cigarette, theorizing whether this was a sign of stress, a rebellion against the pressures of the sport, or simply an act of pure defiance. The sponsors, those multi-billion-dollar entities that invest heavily in Hamilton's pristine image, were undoubtedly watching with wide eyes and furrowed brows. The world's most marketable driver, the face of luxury brands, clean energy initiatives, and health-conscious endorsements, now caught in an act that could jeopardize carefully constructed advertising campaigns. Would they attempt to control the narrative? Would there be a carefully worded PR statement? Or would Hamilton himself address the world, unapologetic, indifferent to the public's reaction? The timing of this controversy could not be more precarious. Hamilton's move to Ferrari was already one of the most seismic shifts in modern Formula One history. The British driver's transition from the Silver Arrows to the legendary Scuderia was supposed to be a story of renewal, a new dawn, a pursuit of the elusive 8th world title that had slipped through his fingers. Ferrari, a team known for its obsession with discipline, with legacy, with maintaining an air of near-mythical prestige, now finds itself entangled in an entirely unexpected PR crisis. What does this mean for his relationship with the team? How does this sit with Frédéric Vasseur, the man who convinced Hamilton to leave the comforts of Mercedes for the unknown challenges of Ferrari? How does it play in the eyes of the Tifosi, the Ferrari faithful, who have waited for years to see a driver of Hamilton's caliber behind the wheel of their beloved Scarlet car? Beyond the immediate media storm, deeper questions loom. Could this be an indication of something brewing beneath the surface? A manifestation of the immense pressure of his Ferrari debut? A moment of escape from the weight of expectation? Or is this simply a non-story being blown out of proportion by an audience that refuses to allow its heroes to be flawed? Psychologists, sports analysts, and even former drivers have been pulled into the conversation, each offering their own theories. Some argue that Hamilton, after spending over 15 years in the relentless pressure cooker of Formula One, is finally embracing a level of rebellion, a detour from the script that has governed his life since he was a child prodigy in go-karts. Others suggest it is nothing more than a fleeting moment, a casual indulgence in the midst of a high-profile evening, a minuscule act that, in any other world, would be completely insignificant. But Formula One is not just any world. It is a sport where every detail matters, where perception shapes reality, where an image can be as valuable as a championship trophy. And so, the debate rages on. The memes multiply, the headlines keep coming, and the sports world remains glued to the unfolding saga of Lewis Hamilton, the Speed King, the Ferrari hopeful, the man who shocked the world with a single cigarette. Will this moment fade into the background as just another footnote in his career? Or will it be a defining incident that adds an entirely new layer to the legend of Lewis Hamilton? For now, the cameras remain focused on him. Every breath, every step, every gesture will be analyzed in microscopic detail. And as the engines prepare to roar once more, as Ferrari fine-tunes its machine for the season ahead, one thing is certain. The world is watching, waiting, and wondering just how much more there is to the man behind the wheel. In the dazzling heart of Monaco, a kingdom of excess and privilege where billionaires casually glide through the streets in hypercars that cost more than an entire city block, where the scent of fine cigars mingles with the salty breeze rolling in from the Riviera, and where power and prestige dictate the pace of life, a scandal unlike anything seen before in the history of Formula One was about to unfold. The Principality, a playground for the world's most elite, had witnessed its fair share of controversy, but nothing quite like this. This was not a mere rumor whispered between champagne flutes at the Hôtel de Paris. This was an event so seismic that it threatened to shatter the carefully curated image of a man regarded as one of the greatest athletes of his generation, a global icon whose discipline and personal brand were built upon an unyielding commitment to excellence, fitness, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. It all began in the shadows, beneath the kaleidoscopic glow of neon reflections dancing off the million-dollar yachts moored in the harbor, where the elite gathered in private lounges draped in silk and gold, oblivious to the storm that was about to consume the sport. Unbeknownst to Hamilton, an unseen observer had been watching him for weeks, moving through Monaco's labyrinth of private clubs, opulent casinos, and hushed corridors of exclusivity, always just out of sight, always in the periphery, capturing glimpses of a man who had become more than just a driver. He was a phenomenon, a cultural force, a living legend draped in Ferrari red. This unseen observer had a name, or rather, a moniker that sent chills down the spines of celebrities and public figures alike: Lens King. A mythic figure in the world of high-stakes paparazzi, a phantom with a camera so powerful it could capture the intricate details of a diamond necklace from a rooftop a mile away, a predator in the urban jungle who stalked his prey with the patience of a seasoned assassin. He was not just a photographer, he was a storyteller, a hunter, a puppet master orchestrating narratives that could elevate or destroy reputations with the mere click of a shutter. And on this particular night, perched atop the deck of a strategically positioned luxury yacht, his lens fixed on the man who had just signed one of the most talked-about contracts in Formula One history, he captured the shot that would send shockwaves through the sport, a single image that would unravel a carefully constructed empire. What the world saw next was nothing short of unbelievable. There, illuminated by the flashing lights of Monaco's most exclusive casino, was Lewis Hamilton, seven-time world champion, self-proclaimed advocate for clean living, outspoken champion of plant-based diets, mindfulness, and peak physical conditioning, holding a cigarette between his fingers. The sight was almost surreal, as if reality itself had fractured for a moment, allowing an image that defied all logic to slip through. The ember of the cigarette glowed against the night, casting an eerie, almost theatrical light across his contemplative expression. A thin plume of smoke curled into the air, drifting like an ephemeral specter, a ghostly contradiction to the athlete whose body had been treated as a temple, whose every fiber was trained for speed, whose dedication to health had been woven into his very identity. The weight of the moment was suffocating. This wasn't just an athlete indulging in a moment of weakness. This was a crack in the foundation of an empire built on precision and self-discipline. This was a man who had spent years meticulously crafting an image of invulnerability, whose social media was filled with grueling workout videos, affirmations of mental fortitude, and declarations of an unwavering commitment to performance. And yet, here he was, breaking his own code, caught in an act that contradicted everything he had preached to millions of fans who had worshipped his ethos. Was this a lapse in judgment? A rare moment of rebellion against the relentless scrutiny of fame? Or was it something deeper, something darker, a sign of a battle waged behind the closed doors of his own psyche? Within minutes, the internet erupted into chaos. The images spread like wildfire, burning through social media at an uncontrollable pace. Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, every platform was ablaze with debate, speculation, and outright hysteria. Hashtags like #HamiltonSmokes, #TobaccoGate, and #FerrariFiasco trended globally. The memes were relentless. Some depicted Hamilton's cigarette photos alongside his past motivational quotes, dripping in irony. Others reimagined famous Ferrari posters, replacing the prancing horse with a plume of cigarette smoke. The reactions ranged from disbelief to anger, from amusement to genuine concern. Some fans clung to the belief that the images were doctored, a cruel hoax designed to tarnish their hero's reputation. Others felt betrayed, as if the very core of their admiration had been shattered. Meanwhile, in Maranello, the headquarters of Ferrari, the fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Ferrari was not just a racing team, it was an institution, a symbol of prestige, passion, and untouchable excellence. The prancing horse represented more than speed, it represented history, honor, and a legacy that had been carefully curated over decades. And now, that legacy was being dragged into a scandal that no amount of podiums or pole positions could erase. Before the sun had even risen, an emergency crisis meeting was called. The walls of Ferrari's boardroom had witnessed many high-pressure discussions over the years, but this was something entirely different. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a volatile mixture of outrage and desperation. Executives, team strategists, and PR specialists filled the room, their faces etched with concern. Representatives from Ferrari's most prominent sponsors were dialed into the meeting, their voices crackling through the speakers, each more incensed than the last. This was not just a driver problem, this was a Ferrari problem. How could a team of such stature, a brand built on discipline and prestige, stand by a driver who had so publicly contradicted the values they held sacred? The health and wellness brands that had aligned themselves with Ferrari's latest campaign were in a state of panic. For years, they had invested millions in painting a picture of Ferrari as a team that stood for cutting-edge performance, a beacon of modern excellence. Now, with a single puff of smoke, that image had been tainted. Tensions reached a boiling point. Some executives demanded immediate damage control, an urgent statement distancing Ferrari from Hamilton's personal choices. Others argued that cutting ties with a 7-time champion before he had even driven a race for the team would be an unthinkable overreaction. The media frenzy spiraled out of control. Every major news outlet ran the story with breathless urgency. Sports analysts dissected the implications with surgical precision. Psychologists were brought in to analyze Hamilton's mindset. Former F1 drivers weighed in with their own perspectives, some defending him, calling it an inconsequential private moment, others branding it an unforgivable lapse. Speculation ran rampant. Had the pressure finally gotten to him? Was he struggling with the weight of expectation? Had Ferrari's suffocating environment already begun to take its toll? Meanwhile, Lenz King, the man behind the chaos, watched from the sidelines, knowing that he had just altered the course of an entire season before a single wheel had been turned in competition. His work was done. The images were out. The world was watching. As the sun set over Monaco, casting golden light over a city still buzzing from the shockwaves of the scandal, the questions remained unanswered. Would Ferrari stand by Hamilton, weathering the storm in hopes that it would pass? Would Hamilton himself respond, addressing the controversy with honesty, defiance, or silence? Would the fans, millions strong, forgive or forget? One thing was certain, this was not just a scandal. This was a cultural moment, a turning point, a story that would be told, debated, and dissected for years to come. And as the smoke from Hamilton's cigarette dissolved into the night sky, the echoes of the controversy lingered, unanswered, unrelenting, and undeniably unforgettable. Lewis Hamilton, once the paragon of discipline, the emblem of clean living, the very embodiment of a modern athlete who championed not just raw speed but a lifestyle of health, mindfulness, and unshakable ethics, now finds himself at the center of a controversy so colossal, so apocalyptic, that it threatens to reduce his legacy to ashes. The man who has spent years crafting an image of supreme self-control, who has stood at the forefront of veganism, environmental consciousness, and a strict anti-smoking advocacy, has been caught in an act so contradictory, so blatantly at odds with his public persona, that the world has been left in a collective state of shock. One image, one photograph, a single moment frozen in time, has unleashed a media firestorm of biblical proportions. There he is, Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, the global icon, the advocate for clean living, caught holding a cigarette, a smoldering betrayal of everything he has ever preached. The picture is everywhere. It has metastasized across every corner of the internet, filling timelines, dominating headlines, igniting outrage in fans who once held him up as the gold standard of what a modern athlete should be. The hashtags are relentless, unforgiving, brutal, hashtag Hamilton hypocrite, hashtag smokescreen champion, hashtag vegan no more. The very pillars of his meticulously constructed empire are beginning to tremble, and the aftershocks are being felt across every facet of his career, his endorsements, and his standing in the sport that made him a legend. The fallout is immediate and catastrophic. Social media has turned into a battlefield, with legions of former supporters now questioning everything they once believed about Hamilton. His fanbase, once fiercely loyal, now finds itself splintered, torn between those desperately clinging to explanations, to justifications, to theories that this must be some kind of misunderstanding, and those who feel utterly betrayed, as though their faith in him has been exploited. The disillusionment is spreading like wildfire, an inferno of broken trust that refuses to be extinguished. The financial ramifications are equally devastating. Hamilton's brand is built on purity, on discipline, on an unrelenting commitment to health and ethical living. His endorsement deals are not just sponsorships, they are partnerships with companies that have molded their entire marketing strategies around his image. Puma, Plant Power Fast Food, Tommy Hilfiger, corporate giants that have invested millions in the Hamilton ethos, are now reportedly in emergency damage control meetings. The stakes are astronomical. Some analysts predict that severed deals could result in financial losses that stretch into tens of millions of dollars, an economic catastrophe that could reshape Hamilton's empire overnight. But the repercussions don't stop at endorsements. Ferrari, the team that represents not just a brand but a religion in motorsport, has reacted with swift and merciless force. The Scuderia has publicly fined Hamilton a staggering €100,000, not just as a punishment but as a warning, a declaration that their emblem, synonymous with prestige, discipline, and a heritage untarnished by scandal, will not be sullied. And yet, insiders whisper that the fine is merely the tip of the iceberg. There are rumors, hushed but persistent, that Ferrari is considering a further, more severe penalty, one that could involve a slash in his astronomical salary, the withholding of performance bonuses, or even the dreaded consequence of a contractual review, an unspeakable scenario that could throw Hamilton's future with Ferrari into question before he has even completed a season in red. And then there is the FIA. The governing body of Formula One is now staring down the barrel of a public relations nightmare. While there is no specific rule prohibiting smoking among drivers, they possess the omnipotent clause that every competitor fears, bringing the sport into disrepute. It is a broad, powerful, ambiguous weapon that allows them to act at their discretion, and speculation is already mounting about how they will wield it. There is talk of mandatory public service announcements, of a forced apology tour, of potential race suspensions, or even the dreaded points deduction, a punishment that could not only derail Hamilton's quest for an 8th world championship but also tilt the title fight before it has even truly begun. The media has transformed this story into a spectacle the likes of which have rarely been seen in sport. Every major news outlet, from BBC to CNN to Sky Sports, has made it their top story. Talk shows, sports panels, political commentators, cultural analysts, everyone is weighing in. There are debates about the hypocrisy of celebrity culture, about the weight of role models in the modern world, about the extent to which an athlete's personal life should impact their career. Hamilton is no longer just a driver. He is a case study in controversy, a lightning rod for discussions that transcend motorsport itself. Every movement he makes now is scrutinized. His social media silence is deafening. His PR team is reportedly in overdrive, drafting statements, crisis managing every headline, working around the clock to contain the damage. But the world waits for one thing, and one thing only: Hamilton's response. And what of the long-term fallout? This scandal is not just a momentary lapse in judgment. It has the potential to define the latter part of his career, to cast a shadow over his legacy. For years, Hamilton has transcended Formula One, becoming a global figure whose influence stretched far beyond the confines of the racetrack. He has been an activist, a voice for the voiceless, a beacon of ethical choices in an industry often criticized for excess. Now, all of it is in jeopardy. Does this mark the beginning of his decline? Will this be the moment where history no longer remembers him for his brilliance, but for his contradiction? The fan reaction has been nothing short of Shakespearean drama, an unfolding saga of betrayal, redemption, and public trial. Memes, parody accounts, fan art, satirical videos, all dissecting his fall from grace. Some depict him as a tragic figure, ensnared by his own mistakes, while others paint him as a villain, a hypocrite who built an empire on false virtue. The engagement is at an all-time high. Tens of millions of interactions flood every platform. This isn't just controversy, it is a cultural phenomenon. And yet, beneath the chaos, one lingering question remains. Can Hamilton recover? Will he find a way to navigate this storm, to salvage his reputation, to regain the trust of those who once idolized him? Or is this the irreversible moment, the point of no return, the scandal that will be etched into the annals of F1 history as the defining controversy of his career? For now, the world watches. The cameras are rolling. The fans are waiting. The story of Lewis Hamilton's smoking scandal is far from over, and the next chapter will be written in fire, in fury, in the relentless, unforgiving court of public opinion. Lewis Hamilton, the man who has conquered circuits with the precision of a grandmaster and the fearlessness of a gladiator, now finds himself embroiled in a battle unlike any he has ever faced. It is not a duel fought with carbon fiber wings and screaming V6 turbo engines, nor is it a contest dictated by aerodynamics and milliseconds. No, this war is far more insidious, more consuming, more dangerous than any he has encountered behind the wheel. It is a war within himself, a collision of mind, reputation, and expectation that could either forge an unbreakable legacy or unravel everything he has spent his life building. The world of Formula One has always been as much about mental resilience as it has been about raw speed. But Hamilton, a man who has mastered the art of focus, now stares into the abyss of uncertainty, a psychological storm brewing with the intensity of a typhoon. The move to Ferrari was supposed to be his renaissance, the final act in a story of greatness that would silence even his most relentless critics. It was meant to be a march toward an 8th world championship, an opportunity to transcend every name in the history books and cement himself as the greatest driver the sport has ever seen. Yet now, with the shadows of controversy creeping ever closer, with the relentless scrutiny of a media circus that refuses to relent, the weight of expectation pressing down on his shoulders like a mountain, the dream teeters on the edge of collapse. The incident, shrouded in whispers and amplified by the deafening roar of speculation, has threatened to pierce the unshakable mental fortress Hamilton has built over years of triumph and tribulation. He has always carried himself with an almost otherworldly calm, a composure that has allowed him to rise above politics, personal attacks, and the ever-present doubters who have questioned his talent since he first set foot in a Formula One paddock. But even the most unflappable minds have their breaking point, and as the relentless spotlight of the world's media continues to scrutinize his every move, his every reaction, his every breath, one has to wonder, is this the moment the armor cracks? Psychologically, the impact of such an ordeal could be catastrophic. Hamilton has always relied on his ability to drown out distractions, to laser focus on the task at hand, to remain immune to the external chaos that often consumes others. But this is not just another controversy. This is not just another wave of criticism that can be brushed aside. The murmurs of doubt are creeping into places they have never reached before, slithering into the very foundations of his self-belief. Every great athlete, no matter how invincible they may seem, has a moment where they stare into the abyss and wonder if they are still the force they once were. Is this that moment for Hamilton? Is this where hesitation begins to seep into the once fluid instinct that has guided him to over 100 Grand Prix victories? And then there is the media, the insatiable beast that thrives on controversy, that revels in magnifying every crack, every misstep, every flicker of emotion that might betray a deeper struggle. Hamilton has danced this dance before. He has been both the darling and the villain, the hero and the target. He has navigated storm after storm, always emerging stronger, always finding a way to turn adversity into fuel for his fire. But this time, the intensity is different. The headlines are sharper, the speculation more venomous, the questions more invasive. The narrative has shifted from undisputed legend to fallible mortal, and the press will not rest until they extract every ounce of drama from this unfolding saga. The battle inside Ferrari, meanwhile, has been set ablaze. The Scuderia, a team that thrives on passion but has often been consumed by internal chaos, now faces a crossroads. They have courted Hamilton as their savior, as the missing piece that will end their championship drought. But now they must decide whether to stand by their new star or distance themselves from the flames threatening to engulf him. This is not just about a driver. This is about the most iconic team in motorsport, a brand that is as much a national treasure as it is a racing outfit. Every move Ferrari makes will be scrutinized by millions of devoted fans, by corporate partners, by the unforgiving Italian press that has never hesitated to turn against its own. Charles Leclerc, once the undisputed heir to Ferrari's throne, now finds himself in an even more precarious position. He was already facing the challenge of proving himself against one of the greatest drivers of all time, but now the situation is even more delicate. If Hamilton falters under the weight of controversy, if his performances suffer, does Ferrari shift its full backing to Leclerc? Does the internal hierarchy that was already on unstable ground collapse entirely? The psychological dynamics within the team could become a battlefield as ruthless as any seen on track, with politics, power struggles, and shifting allegiances determining the fate of the season. Beyond the paddock, the fans have been thrown into a state of turmoil. The Tifosi, known for their unwavering passion, are watching with bated breath, their emotions teetering between unwavering support and creeping disillusionment. The global fanbase that once rallied behind Hamilton with religious fervor now finds itself divided, with every social media platform turning into an arena of debate, of accusation, of loyalty being tested. Some stand firm in their belief that their champion will rise once more, that he will turn this crisis into an opportunity to prove his doubters wrong. Others, however, whisper that the unthinkable might be happening, that this could be the beginning of an irreversible decline. The weight of their expectations, their hopes, their scrutiny, is yet another burden Hamilton must carry as he steps into the unknown. And then there is Monte Carlo, the city of kings and fortunes, where Hamilton has found sanctuary in the past, a place that has been both a home and a fortress. Yet now, the narrow streets and grand balconies of Monaco feel less like a haven and more like a gilded cage, a place where privacy is a myth and the world's eyes are always watching. The place where he once found solitude has become a stage where every movement is recorded, analyzed, and dissected. He must decide whether to retreat further into his world, to fortify his defenses against the onslaught of attention, or to embrace the storm head-on, to walk into the fire and come out the other side stronger than ever. The road ahead for Lewis Hamilton is no longer just about tire degradation, aerodynamics, and pit stop strategies. It is about something far deeper, far more human. It is about his resilience in the face of a storm unlike any he has encountered before. It is about whether he can silence the noise, drown out the doubt, and rediscover the unshakable focus that made him an unstoppable force. Every great champion faces a moment where they are forced to confront their own mythology, where they must prove not just to the world, but to themselves, that they are still the warrior they have always believed themselves to be. This is that moment for Lewis Hamilton. And the world is watching. The world of Formula One has seen its fair share of controversy, drama, and high-stakes showdowns. Rivalries that have split the paddock in half, team orders that have defined championships, shocking crashes that have altered the course of history. Every season brings with it a story that captivates the world. But nothing could have prepared the sport, its fans, or even its most seasoned veterans for the absolute media frenzy that has erupted around Lewis Hamilton, a driver whose career has been defined by unparalleled dominance, unwavering discipline, and an image so carefully curated that it seemed impenetrable. Until now. In a moment that felt almost surreal, a single photograph, one frame frozen in time, was enough to send shockwaves through the motorsport universe. Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time world champion, the ambassador of peak performance, the embodiment of resilience and unwavering focus, caught holding a cigarette. It was a sight that felt almost unnatural, a juxtaposition so jarring that many refused to believe it at first. The immediate reactions were disbelief, denial, and speculation. Was it staged? Was it a prank? Was there some kind of context we were missing? But as the image spread like wildfire, dissected frame by frame, scrutinized under the unrelenting microscope of social media, one truth became inescapable: this was real. For a man who has spent decades meticulously constructing his persona as the pinnacle of health and discipline, who has inspired millions with his dedication to physical fitness, mental fortitude, and an unrelenting commitment to pushing human potential to its limits, this was more than just an unfortunate moment. It was a betrayal of his own mythology. The headlines erupted with unforgiving intensity. Hamilton caught in shocking scandal. Is his legacy at risk? A smoking gun, the moment that shook Formula One to its core. From champion to controversy, the fall of an icon, the discourse quickly spiraled into every conceivable direction. Sports analysts debated whether this would impact his focus on the track. Fitness experts weighed in on whether a single misstep could tarnish his credibility as a role model for athletic excellence. Sponsors, the lifeblood of modern motorsport, began to quietly deliberate what this meant for their long-standing partnerships. And in the eye of this hurricane stood Hamilton himself, a man who has faced intense scrutiny before, but never on such a deeply personal level. It wasn't long before he spoke. He could have let the speculation run its course, allowed the noise to fade into the background, continued as if nothing had happened. But that has never been his way. He met the storm head-on. His response, crafted with precision and delivered with the gravitas of a man who understands the weight of his words, was both an admission and a call to action. "I've let you down." With those 4 words, he stripped away the defenses, the justifications, the excuses. He addressed not just his fans but the entire racing community, his team at Ferrari, who had placed their faith in him to bring them back to the top, and the sponsors whose trust had been built over years of mutual benefit. He spoke with the sincerity of a man who understood the magnitude of his actions, of what it meant to the millions who have looked up to him as a paragon of self-discipline and perseverance. "I understand the weight of my actions, especially on those who see me as a beacon of health, determination, and responsibility. But words, no matter how well-intentioned, would never be enough." He knew that. He had seen firsthand how the world responds to controversy, how public opinion is a tide that shifts with every passing moment. The only way forward was through action, through transformation, through an unrelenting commitment to proving that this was not a defining fall from grace but a momentary misstep on a larger journey. And so, Hamilton did what he has always done. He took control of the narrative. He didn't just apologize. He pledged a course of action so ambitious, so exhaustive, that it left even his harshest critics momentarily speechless. He vowed to immerse himself in the science of addiction, to personally fund research into smoking cessation programs, to speak at schools, to partner with global health organizations in an effort to raise awareness. This wasn't just about damage control, it was about ownership, about turning a scandal into an opportunity to educate, to inform, to make a difference. The sheer magnitude of his commitment was almost overwhelming. He wasn't just making amends, he was declaring war on the very problem he had inadvertently stepped into. But the question still lingered in the air, unresolved and unshakable. Would it be enough? The Formula One community is a relentless, often unforgiving arena. The fans are passionate, opinionated, and above all, deeply invested in the sport's heroes. Social media became a battleground of perspectives. Some applauded his honesty, admiring the way he refused to hide, to deflect, to blame external factors. Others, however, were not so easily convinced. Talk is cheap, they argued. Let's see him follow through. Memes flooded the internet, some light-hearted, others viciously critical. Threads analyzing the incident in excruciating detail amassed thousands of comments. Editorials questioned what this meant for Hamilton's standing in the sport. Would Ferrari stand by him unconditionally? Would his sponsors waver? Would this moment cast a permanent shadow over his pursuit of an 8th world championship? And then, of course, there was the silent judgment of the paddock. His fellow drivers, many of whom had once looked up to him as an unshakable figure of discipline and control, now viewed him through a different lens. Some privately voiced their support, recognizing that everyone, no matter how great, was still human. Others saw an opening, an opportunity to exploit weakness, to sow doubt. In a sport where mental fortitude is just as crucial as raw speed, this was ammunition. The whispers began. Was Hamilton still at his peak? Had the relentless scrutiny of fame, of expectation, of the constant pursuit of perfection finally taken its toll?